Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Explode Your Expert Business Show. And today I'm here with the one and only Annie Wright. How you doing today, Annie?
I'm good, thank you. I'm very good.
Oh, fantastic to hear. So today is we're talking about a really important topic, which is all about health. And, when running a business as experts like myself, yourself, sometimes we feel there are never enough hours during the day to take care of our health, and then something happens. And it's like, oh, I got a body. It's like this wake-up call, right? And I know you do a brilliant job on helping really successful people finding that balance and prioritizing their health. So before we go into this topic, tell us a bit more about yourself and what got you to do what you do today.
Well, basically, I got into the health industry basically because I was injured. I was in the army, which had been something that I'd wanted to do most of my teenage life. I went to the Royal Military Officer Academy at Sandhurst, which is an incredible place full of history. But in week 2, my left knee started to become a little bit troublesome. And through the next 6 months, it got progressively worse and worse. Thankfully, I was able to call on a few friends to sort of give me advice to help me through. So I didn't have to be back termed, which is a nightmare if you are. So I managed to pass out, but it was a real issue. And I was then sent to an infantry battalion in an administration role. But the guys suddenly realized that if I was to one of the real valuable things that I could give was I was the only female in 600 people. And if I passed,
okay. Let me stop you there for a moment. How was being the only female in 600 people? How did you feel there?
It had its moments. It had its moments, especially initially. But they were very respective. But it does have its moments, yes.
Did you ever feel, oh my God, am I going to be able to pass this? Am I going to be able to move forward? I'm the only woman here. Do you ever felt that way?
Yes, the first night was challenging, shall we say. I think I grew up quite a lot that night.
Yep. So now you find yourself in that situation, and then what happened?
Basically, I carried on my career, but it wasn't going to work. I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I was becoming increasingly desk-bound, and being inactive was just so painful. It just was a nightmare. And so I realized that we needed to part company. It was not going to be the job that I wanted to do, nor would be able to do.
Yeah.
And so coincidentally, as I rode, and when you ride, you sometimes fall off horses. And therefore I had a chiropractor who helped put me back together when we parted company. And I was loading a friend's horse, and the horse kicked me in the arm, which we didn't really think very much of, apart from a few expletives. But within a couple of hours, my arm started to go numb. And so went to the doctor, and they went, well, it will just come back. So went out of the doctor and called my chiropractor.
So did they say really it will just come back?
They just said, yeah.
I'm like, I heard well. They just said.
Yeah, absolutely. It will just come back.
All right, sure.
And so I rang my chiropractor up and said, got a slight technical hitch here. I have a championships at the weekend, and I cannot use my right arm. And so I pedaled it down from Bedford to Hampshire, and I actually had a bowed collarbone. And to distract me from what is actually quite a painful treatment,
Wow.
we were talking about chiropractic. And it was then that I actually realized that I had the A levels and the aptitude and the interest to become a chiropractor. So 6 weeks later, I was on the course.
So it was immediately like a sudden decision. It's like,
I only do things suddenly.
It feels right.
It feels right. Go for it.
You know what? It happened also with me, like when I decided to go into the coaching world. I remember attending a seminar and I was like, yeah, that's what I was born to do. Let's start.
Absolutely.
It was no other. It was like 2 days, and that was enough to understand. Okay, that's the next part of my life.
Yeah.
And how did you feel when you realized that? I'm just curious to understand from you.
It was a release, a real release. The training was fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I had never thought about chiropractic. I only thought at the time that you kind of did bones and spines. Yeah. And so therefore for me, it was like going in a complete circle, because as a child, I was really interested in how vitamins and minerals and food affected the body. And so when I was going to university, I actually started doing food science. That was my sort of first degree. And but it became relatively clear that actually food science is not about food and how it reacts with the body and what food does. It's all about how you manipulate food. And that did not interest me at all.
Right.
So I changed degrees to history and economics. So it was this complete full circle going around in my life. And so over the next 18 years, since I've qualified, I've basically learned so many different techniques, partly guided by what interested me, what my clients needed, but also I used my body as a barometer because it was broken, basically. I realized very quickly I had 5 operations on it, and it actually made no difference at all.
Wow.
And I was not unique in this. And so what happened was I learned about something which led me to another area of interest. I tried it on myself. It worked or didn't work. I just tweaked it a bit to make it work better.
Yeah.
So I gave it an Annie bit, as my clients call it.
Yeah.
And I then realized that food, activity, how your mind works, how you engage with your body really makes a massive, massive, massive difference. And that was just like opening. If you can imagine the thing that you want so much in life, a present that you've really, really wanted for ages, but you couldn't afford it, or you didn't know how to get it. And then somebody gives that to you and it's yours. It's, it's there for you to be able to open, to look at, to use. It's that kind of feeling. Suddenly the body actually works for you rather than you living in it and having no control over it.
Like, something else is popping up, or another ache or another pain.
Absolutely. Because now when people say that they don't know, they have a little pain and they complain about it, or they come running to me, and I'll say, yeah, but that's normal. There's not a day where I can say something in my body's not whinging. But it's not major. It just sort of goes away, or I do something, I look at life, and it just carries on. But no, that realism that actually you can have control over your body, your mind, is, I think, for me, it was a massive breakthrough.
And so from there, then you made, now you're making a transition into also not just the chiropractic world, but adding also elements of coaching. Why did that happen? What made you say, okay, just being a chiropractor is not enough. I need to do something more for my clients?
I've always believed, especially because I think because I had a chronic problem, people were drawn to me with chronic problems. And when you have a chronic problem, you're never going to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. You have to manage it. And you have to get your head around that. But you have to understand what the pain or the dysfunction or the problem is. Mm-hmm. And once you understand that, you have control. So if someone has arthritis like I did, actually the arthritic joint is actually very little of the pain. It's the Third World War that goes on around it and the muscles as they try to compensate for that, that causes the problem. And so once you then realize that you're actually aggravating your body every step of the way, or every time you lift something or whatever, suddenly you can realize that actually you can change how you work in a good way. Mm-hmm. And therefore you can reduce the pain.
Yes.
But also you can use, when you have a bad day, you can go, okay, now how am I walking? Or how am I lifting something? Or how am I sitting? And you go, the little bad habits have snuck in again. And you can just pop it up a bit more, and then you can reduce the pain.
Yep.
And it's really interesting that we're reading more and more in the papers now how much actually doctors are starting to think that actually you can help arthritis and things. Whereas 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it was the kiss of death. Once you had it, you could do nothing about it.
Goodbye. Good luck.
Exactly. Goodbye. And it was this realization that so many diseases were being caused by actually a single factor. And that is our lifestyle, how we move, what we eat, the air we breathe, our emotional connection with people and our jobs and our families. And this leads to a situation which in sort of medical speak is called global inflammation. I describe it as to patients, it's a bit like your body becomes a bit of a septic tank.
Yes.
I don't like using the word toxic because that's really kind of like overused. Yeah. But it's all got very, very gunky.
Yes.
And what we need to do is clean it out. But unlike a loo system, we don't want to actually throw more chemicals into it and make it even gunkier. What we have to do is we have to detox it, to sieve out, to make the organs which sieve everything out. Mm-hmm. We have to make them work better. So therefore we have to be more mindful about what we stick in our mouths, and how we get the body to work. And that was the really big thing that then, so I suppose I've always educated. Mm. And then last year, literally 2 days ago, I was talking with a client and he said to me, I need your help. And I went, yeah, what help do you need? And he went, I've got to start looking after my body. And I went, yep.
I'm glad you realized that.
Absolutely. And he said, I can't do that. And I went, yes, you can. And he went, no, I can't do it. I need your help. And so, last year in the middle of the Beast of the East, Stand Tall was created, and my coaching program actually became my focus and my priority.
So you mentioned during our conversations that a lot of people, the informations are out there. We all know that we need to eat better and exercise more. Spend time with great people, have connections with the people that we love, all the things that you said before. And, in a hindsight, it's quite logical. And it should be pretty easy. but it's not based on global results.
Yeah.
So in particular, now we are talking, this podcast is for business owners, experts, people that are running busy lives. Yeah. And they are going on there, changing the world, and often forgetting about themselves.
Oh, yes.
So why do people not prioritize their health? Like, what's going on here that stops us from saying, you know what, where can I find time to eat better? Where can I find time to exercise more? So what's the problem here? What's the real problem?
The real problem is that we have been force-fed, to excuse the pun, that we need to do something extra. That to lose weight and to eat healthier, you need to eat something fancy, and you need to eat less. And to be more active, you need to go to the gym. And busy people can't fit that in. It doesn't work, because if you're working 6 till 8, you're going to international conferences, you're living away from home, you've potentially got family, whether it's children or a husband or a wife, and you're still doing the cleaning and you're doing all the cooking, where do you fit in going to the gym?
Yep.
You're knackered. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You just pick up something easy because you're tired and you don't have time. You flop down on the sofa or behind the computer to try and catch up on those last emails. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you don't see any way of breaking out of it. Because as a person, we will always take the easy option out. This massive great processor of ours is a wonder at patterns and taking the easy option.
Yeah.
And changing actually is easy once you have clarity and certainty about where you want to go. But when you don't have that clarity or that certainty, there's so many paths in that wood.
I can so relate with what you're saying. I mean, I've always been a very active person, very, very active person. I've always did sports since I was 12, never stopped till now. But something that I've realized that at the beginning when I started my business, it was just so obsessed and so absorbed in my work that I could neglect food, having the right food. And also I developed like a very bad eating habit. I went through anorexia, I went through bulimia, I went through massive overeating issues. I even went to Overeaters Anonymous. And so for me, like the quest for health, fitness, and in particular to say, how can I be healthy without all these problems, then became the biggest priority. And I think the biggest struggle that I had to face so far, nothing was more difficult to change than my eating issues, like by far, because it just messes up your brain. And in particular, not many men talk about it. Eating habit or eating issues is more commonly shared between women and commonly accepted, so socially accepted for women, because society's told us that, but not between men. And so it made it even worse. And so it took a very long look to myself to make those changes of, not always going for the easy option or cooking food at home. Actually, it required getting married for that to happen. So if it was left to myself, it wouldn't have happened at all. And then making time for exercising and doing something that I loved, even without going to the gym, which is what you mentioned. So I think what you do is super important. So now the question that I have is, when you work with your clients, what do you do first to get things started? Because that's what our listener wants to know right now. It's like, where shall I start?
Where shall I start? My biggest thing is if we put it into business speak, we need to do an audit. we need to know where we're starting from.
I love the metaphor.
We need to know our habits. We need to know what to eat, when we eat. But more importantly, you need to know when you feel great, when you feel like shit, when you feel, when you get up and that, you get up, or you just have that moment of real clarity and suddenly work is so easy. You need to know when you feel those bits, if you ever feel those bits. But also you need to know that feeling when you just sit down and you've got a notebook in front of you or the screen in front of you and you just need to write something and it's just like mush, absolute mush. You can't think of where to, almost like English is, your mother tongue has, or you for Italian, your mother tongue has suddenly become like gobbledygook. There is just no connection between the brain, the fingers, and the screen. It's just like, exactly. And that can be that, knowing when those are, knowing those patterns of how you feel, connecting them with what you're eating and when you're eating or you're not eating, or how active you've been at that time. Making those connections is really, really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because for most people, and this is going to sound really, when you're talking about somebody who is obese, so their body fat is 50%, which most of us will be thinking, oh my God, our body fat's not that great. well, even if you look at most men now, their collar size is, the smallest collar size you can buy is a 15.5 now. So most men are on a 17.5, 18 collar size. Mm-hmm. That means that already your neck is heading towards the area where you get sleep apnea as being a common problem.
Yep.
If you're a waistline of a size 40 plus, then you are heading up towards the 40, 50% body fat. So it's actually quite easy to get up to that levels without actually being conscious of it.
Yeah.
So if you can connect how you feel with what you're doing, then you can start looking at, okay, what's going on? What do we need to do? How do we plan? Because most people actually stop eating. We use food as a weapon in two different ways. We either abstain from it, or we go completely opposite and just binge.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing.
That's more of a ladies thing.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I was doing.
Or we just eat what's convenient. Mm-hmm. Which, from the supermarkets. And I start to slowly educate people about how they can feel full but not eat a massive portion. Mm-hmm. But that are they a grazer or are they a sort of 3 meal a day person? Mm-hmm. That it's absolutely fine to graze, but you just need to know what to graze on.
Yeah.
When you have a sort of sugar drop moment, what to eat and what to do. Mm-hmm. And that very quickly starts to change things. And the first thing it changes is your clarity and your mental stableness. So a lot of guys come to me because they're losing it. They're struggling at work and we can all see this in guys we've worked with.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
a bit explosive, shall we say?
Da, 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 da. Charge forward.
Exactly. They're a bit explosive. Either they are super, super keen and they're just sort of compulsive, or you ask them a question and goes off. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting because that's what changes first, when you change how they eat and when they eat. Because often, actually, it's just simply the blood sugar levels doing this all day. and the body can't cope with it. It's not designed to cope with it. And then we start introducing activity. And you'll notice I say activity, not exercise, because the guys I work with are super focused. They are absolute machines at doing things and driving themselves, because that's where they are in their lives. But their bodies are just basically something they live in. It's not part of their overall plan in life.
Yeah.
It's a vessel. They just they don't take any notice of it until it goes wrong. But once you start moving, so for example, I've got a guy, and he's working a 6-story building, and he has now been there since about 3 months. He hasn't used the lifts once. He's at the top of the building, and one of his project managers is at the bottom of the building. And we made it basically his aim that he didn't use the lifts and he didn't use the telephone. Now, for a senior director, you think this is mad, him running up and down the stairs. This is just not going to work. He now works 25% less time because his brain is clear. Yes. His mental issues, his anger has just gone. His brain is clear. And actually what he's found in trundling down the steps and trundling up the steps, he has the most amazing brain waves. Because it's away from the screen, it's away from the desk. So he's turned that really powerfully into his into how he works. And so that's what I do. We audit, we plan, and we use what you eat and when you eat, and when you put activity into your day. And we then re-audit continually.
I absolutely love this process, and it makes it simpler, I think, to make the changes, because from what I've heard you saying, you are not talking about, a lot of times the diet industry or the change industry is all about making drastic changes. You think about the fitness industry is how to lose 5 kilos in 2 weeks. Or you're looking at changing completely your diet and now suddenly become vegan and eat only salad leaves and a carrot, which then you eat a vase of Nutella at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it makes it very manageable. Even just making small changes, say, okay, right now go up and down the stair, you're already there, you have it. You don't need anything else. Now, I have a question for you in terms of nutrition. Is there something like some foods that you recommend, or a particular diet that you recommend to people? Is that the same for everyone? It differs from person to person, or do you have some like go-to foods that you're recommending to your clients? And the reason why I'm asking this question, it is because I think that the diet industry is a bit, it's part of the French is a bit fucked up. So, and going myself through a lot of so many diets and eat this and don't eat that, then I kind of find my own balance, and it works, and how it works. So I wanted to take you to hear your take on this.
Well, you'll notice the whole way through, I've not used the word diet. I've used the word food.
Yes.
And what you eat. And it's very different. If someone like myself uses food as a weapon because for emotional, then I may use initially calorie counting so that people actually understand what they're eating. And it's an educational. And most of the guys I work with are really quite bright, so they don't have to do it for very long. So what I concentrate on is, it depends on why someone's coming to me. So if they're overweight, and if they have tended to like pasta and rice and quick things, then I get them to increase their protein levels.
Yes.
Because protein is great in terms that it has low calories, but it makes you feel full.
Mm-hmm.
It touches that hunter-gatherer button in us that just makes us feel full, but you feel like you're still eating something.
Yes.
And then the next big thing that I educate people on is that fats are good, and that what I would call carbs, which are coming out of a packet, so pasta, rice, snacks, biscuits, cakes, they're generally not good for us.
Pretty simple. If it's a carb coming out of a packet, try to avoid it as much as possible.
However, the other thing I go,
and now all the Italians that are listening to this, they're like,
no, because their genetics are different. Their genetics are very different, and their pasta is very different.
Okay, so there is hope. For Italians
there
like us, there is hope.
Absolutely. So basically, it's protein that fills you up.
Yes.
It's rainbow colors of veg and fruit, which gives you lots of the nutrients and the sugars in a form that we can, as a body, digest. And it's to reduce down, but not eliminate, what I would call the fast hits. Because when people start to add in the colors and the protein, what happens is they then start to twig themselves that actually the carbs don't make them feel that good.
Yeah.
Now I'm being slightly naughty here, because fruit and veg, as anybody who is anybody will probably be shouting at the screen saying,
they are carbs.
It is a carbohydrate, but it's treated in the body differently.
Yes.
So when you've had, quite a stodgy lunch, you suddenly start to realize that actually, yeah, exactly. But if you have nuts and what I call quite a meaty, not as in meat necessarily, but quite a robust salad. I'm not talking about lettuce leaves here, or vegetables or whatever, seeds, whatever. You actually have energy after lunch blues and moments. Just go. So that's basically what I do with people. I
really love it. I have one more question before we go to the lifting the veil part of the interview. What's your take on supplements? Do you recommend supplements? Because there are some people that are like, yes, oh my God, we need supplements because now we don't get enough nutrients from the food and how it's treated. And we have people that are like, oh my God, no, supplements is like the son of Satan. Don't get supplements. So what's your take on that? Yeah, where are you at?
I do use supplements, but it's not a blanket. So if someone is coming to me with clinical disease, I do use supplements simply to boost their nutrients. I use them as a drug, if you get what I mean. But I have some I'm not a pharmacist, but I have some clinical understanding of the relationships between the supplement, the drugs they're on, and the condition. And their GPs know what supplements I'm putting them on.
Right.
So I do it in a very open, transparent, and scientific way. Most of the supplements I use tend to be towards gut health. Because that is, for me, the key to getting somebody feeling better faster.
Yes.
and especially energy, clarity. That is the fastest way, and emotionally. And the other area that I do use supplements is where we've got a high level of where the excretion organs, the liver and the kidneys, are not working very well. So any ladies with menstrual pain, anybody that has quite chunky thighs that they've tried exercising and the thighs don't unchunk, any that has puffiness in the ankles and limbs, those kind of people, I do use supplements to get those organs working again.
Working better.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing. So now it's time to go to the last part of the interview, which is called Lifting the Veil. And that's where we ask all our guests to share a tool, an app, a book they're reading or they found out, a website, something that they bought recently, whatever you choose that made a positive impact in your life, on your business, that is worth sharing. So Annie, what is that for you?
It's a book that I go back to frequently. I think I've probably owned it about 5 years. I think that's right. It's a book called Clarity by Jamie Smart.
Yep.
I tend to pick up books as I go through airports, and it kind of jumped off the shelf at me. And what I love about it, and it started for me that emotional journey and the understanding that actually it was me that was getting in my way, not anybody else, is it looks at perceptions.
Yes. And
a lot of what people struggle with in health is perceptions. How are people going to perceive if I do this? What if I do that? How am I going to look? Well, I don't change. That's something that comes out frequently. My body doesn't change. All these things are actually in our heads. They're all limiting beliefs. And God, they are just the most trashing thing for getting to our dreams. And for me, the mental obstacles, as I put it, all the perceptions, the limiting beliefs that Jamie goes into so well in this book, is just so much part of that first question you asked, is why people actually don't enact on the information they see.
I read Clarity. Jamie Smart is also a good friend. He spoke for us about like 4 or 5 times at GTeX. So I absolutely love his message. I recommend everyone who's listening to get the book Clarity. It's not a big book, quite short. Yeah. Very easy read, but man, that's powerful. So thank you for mentioning, guys, get a book. I'll put the link, the Amazon link here in the show notes so you can get a copy. Annie, thank you very much for the interview. It's been an absolute pleasure. Very, very informative, very, very useful. Now I know that our listeners are like, okay, I want to talk to Annie. But if people want to reach out to you, get to know you better, get into your word, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, there's my Facebook link, either Stand Tall for Life, which is a 4, not a FOR, or my personal page, Annie Wright. And also my email is always a good way, is awright@salight.co.uk. And if you could put that into your notes as well.
Yeah, we'll put everything in the show notes. So in this moment, if you scroll down in the podcast, or if you're watching this on YouTube, if you go in the description, or if you are maybe you're watching this or listening to this on our website, still scroll down, you will find all the links, Annie, her Facebook profile link, her Facebook page, and her email address, so you can reach out to her. I really encourage you to do that, because your health becomes your biggest priority. Without that, no matter what grandiose goals, dreams, aspirations you have, then it means nothing. Because one day, and we all know someone, or maybe it happened to ourselves, that something happens to the machine, and then we realize how important it is. So now you know how important it is. So be proactive. Okay. Annie, thank you very much for being with us today.
Really enjoyed it.
Guys, thank you very much for listening or watching. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Hit the subscribe button right now so you don't miss any other episode. And I would really appreciate, it would mean a lot to me, if you can leave us a review, an honest review. Let us know what you like. Let us know what kind of topics you'd like us to talk about, to share. And also, we are going to shout out some of the reviews in the future episodes. So I'm really looking forward to reading your reviews. And now there is only one thing to say, which is remember that together we grow exponentially. I'll see you next time. Bye.